What's up, guys? Saf here on SuperSaf Speaks, and welcome to episode number 14 of the podcast with myself, your host, SuperSaf.
And your co-host, Thunder E from Board at Work.
Who is in a bit of a different setting if you're watching the video of this podcast because of that whistling noise that's always in the background. So this should be nice, clean, soundproof audio, which I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
Thanks, man. The things you do for me. But anyway, we've got lots to talk about this week. There's some bad news. LG finally has confirmed that they are leaving the smartphone markets. So we've got lots to talk about here. I know we've covered the rumors for quite some time, but now it's officially confirmed. There's some chip news, right? I mean, who thought chip news would be exciting? But it is very exciting. The Pixel 6 may be powered, or actually will be powered by Google's own made GS101 chipset. So that's going to be quite interesting. And in other chip news, more chip news, MediaTek has reportedly passed Qualcomm as the top chip vendor in 2020. I mean, that's exciting in itself. There's lots to unpack here. And then some Clubhouse news. So it looks like Clubhouse, I mean, we've not been using it much, but it seems like they are now launching direct payments. And the interesting thing here is they're not going to be taking a cut. So that's something that was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people. And then we've had two new smartphones that have landed in the studio. We, of course, have the much talked about Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra, which is, I mean, holy camera bump. And then we also have the gaming beast, which is the Lenovo Legion Phone Duel 2. So both of these have landed this week, so we'll talk about those as well. Okay, so firstly, let's start with the news. It was Sunday night for you, early morning Monday for me. And I get a message from E in the morning, and I usually wake up for prayers in the morning, so I wake up and I just check my phone, and I couldn't sleep after that because it was. I'm not like we've talked about this a lot. Obviously, rumors have been going for some time, and we were really hoping that there'd be a last minute decision to kind of turn something around. None of that happened. We had a statement from LG. I'll read a little bit of a snippet for those listening. So the press release is LG to close mobile phone business worldwide. LG's strategic decision to exit the incredibly competitive mobile phone sector will enable the company to focus resources in growth areas such as electric vehicle components, connected devices, smart homes, robotics, artificial intelligence, and business-to-business solutions, as well as platforms and services, right? And I'm going to leave this up there. I mean, it's obviously articles are everywhere else. The wind down of the mobile phone business is expected to be completed by July 31st, although inventory of some existing models may still be available after that. I mean, it was inevitable. We've talked about this a lot. It seemed like it was going to happen. I think we were just kind of holding on to hopes. After you sent me that article, I mean, the press, official release that we got emailed, I started looking back at some LG videos, some LG G3, the LG G4, and the LG G4 London event was actually the first event I went to, so it kind of brought back a lot of memories. And I made this small short, just like for Instagram and YouTube shorts, just kind of looking back at some of the LG moments, and it was quite emotional.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit emotional. I think one of the things that to me just shocked me is that it happened, and it happened really quick. We talked about it last week, and I felt like maybe in the middle of the week they'll drop it like on a Wednesday. Sunday night they were like, we're done with this.
Yeah, let's get it out.
and when I looked at the press release again, I realized that on a business side of things they were correct with the decision, but I think there's a slight business aspect of it that they weren't correct. So they mentioned one thing that was really key that I totally forgot about, which was batteries for electric vehicles. And LG is one of the largest producers of batteries for electric vehicles.
Interesting.
LG and I think Panasonic, you should be able to find their batteries in Teslas. So that's a really huge growth market that it's a good shift as opposed to the smartphone market, which is very mature and now is shrinking down in a sense. But we've gone up in nausea about how they could have fixed things could have been changed, and all that stuff. I think, at least for me, I've been reflecting on the cool things that LG has done. There were so many mistakes, but there were really things that I'm going to miss. One of the biggest things for me is they were the last company to truly keep on the headphone jack and have a quad DAC. And somebody asked a question, I think it was Painfully Honest Text on Twitter. It's like, now that LG is gone, what do you think is going to be missing from this space? And I said, good audio. Now, a lot of people won't realize that until Bluetooth 6 or 7 gets to the point where audio now becomes, wireless audio matches wired audio. And everybody's going to go, wow, that sounded great. And we're like, yeah, we had this years ago.
Yeah, I mean, for you being somebody that's obviously, an audio guy, obviously that's something that's quite close. But I think just generally, I think LG did have some, especially towards the beginning. I mean, I had so many LG devices that I use like on a daily basis. But one of the things I also want to address is because we've been getting a lot of criticism, because after I posted that video, and a lot of us were posting, kind of our farewells to LG, and then people were like, "Oh, you're just being, a hypocrite. It's you tech reviewers are the reason why LG went down." And I was just like, really? And it did work me up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, people say stuff online all the time, but that particularly did work me up, because I was kind of like, I was rooting for LG throughout the time, right? I wanted to cover LG devices as much as possible. I was emailing nonstop, asking them, "Hey, can I please get hold of your device, because it's released in the US and it's going to be coming to the UK in 2 months' time. So if I go out and spend my own money 2 months later, it's going to be too late. Nobody's going to be wanting to watch the video. It's not going to make sense." We generally have like 3 or 4 new smartphones or new pieces of tech in at any one time. Obviously, we have to prioritize. We have to work, on what's gonna run our business for us, right? And if you're not being provided the devices, and I mean like the V series, the V30, I wanted to cover those devices, but they weren't available in the UK. So the only way I'd be able to get them was to actually pay a lot of money, get them imported. And again, I would get those late. So, for those of you who are complaining and saying we were the reason for it, then firstly, I just want to say screw you guys, because you're completely wrong. But, I think you need to understand the bigger picture. It's easy enough to just kind of sit there and just kind of throw these accusations. But like, we genuinely loved LG products and we were feeding back, and, we really wanted to cover them. But, obviously it's all done now. It's gone. But I just wanted to kind of emphasize that, you can just look back at some of those clips where I'm like praising, I mean, the ultra wide camera, every time I had a camera comparison, I'm like, boom, look at that. This is amazing. Everybody should do this. Guess what? Everybody did do it. But
yeah, I mean, no, you're definitely right. I think one of the things that a lot of people miss is, again, look, honestly, human perception of history is very short-sighted. It's always been the short interim. It's never long-term. We've discussed about this, and I remember even on Monday I said LG died after the G5 for me, and not because I didn't like it, but because that's when they started making issues after issues, mistakes after mistakes that just didn't change. I remember the very first the V10 was a device people were like, it's kind of off, but the V20 was really solid, and then they just kind of devolved back. They didn't look at certain things, and I just wanted to bring this point up because I brought it up yesterday on Andrew and John Retchinger's podcast. But I thought it was really important for people to realize this. I went for the press event for the V60 last year, the press briefing. And in the briefing, they said, "Oh, look, we've got the dual screen case, and really put a bigger emphasis on gaming where you can map your controls and all that stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, I remember that. That's pretty cool." I'm like, so I just asked a simple question. I said, "Since that's the case, does this new case, or do you have a separate case that has trigger buttons on the case?" Because The games you mentioned, you're talking about PUBG, you're talking about Call of Duty Mobile. Having that trigger takes everything to a whole new level, especially played on a mobile phone. And they said, no, we weren't really thinking about that, and we didn't think that consumers will want that. And somebody else said, hey, you could just remap that button to a camera button, right? Like that's, as long as it's a button on the case, we can map it to do other things. And they said, well, we weren't really thinking about that. And I'm going, this is a company that says they talk to gamers about gaming features and didn't think about the things necessary. That's where I got annoyed with LG, that they weren't taking focus to move forward. And I think that's the problem they faced, besides the other things like marketing and the rest of them. So there's quite a bit.
Yeah. But I mean, they've gone now. But I mean, LG is not going anywhere as a company. Obviously, we still have lots of great LG devices, products. They're pretty much in every home, so we will be seeing a lot more of LG. One of the other questions that's been popping up with the whole conversations around LG exiting the smartphone market is who's going to be next. That's something that a lot of people are talking about online.
Next is in who's going to go away or who's going to be number three?
Who's going to go next? Because this is quite interesting. Now, I'm going to go up and say this because this is going to be controversial, I know. But I'm not saying this, but what's coming from a lot of the Twitter replies and the comments is that it's going to be Sony, right? And now I hope it isn't, because again, I like a lot of what Sony has done. They're different. I like the 21:9. But again, if they carry on with this very small niche, then it's going to be very hard to sustain on the mainstream, right? I'll give you an example with the 4K display on the Xperia 1 Mark II, for example. I even asked like a Sony fan, TK, he's not going to mind me quoting him here, but I was on his podcast and I said to him, okay, look, the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, it's a really good phone. I really like that it's compact and, I can hold it very comfortably, but it's still got a large screen. There's lots to like about it. I like the continuous shutter, all of the manual controls, all of that, right? But I said to him, okay, if I give you the option of having that same phone with either a 4K display in 60 Hz or a Quad HD display and 120 Hz. And now this is a Sony fan. He's like, I'd pick Quad HD with 120 Hz, right? And I'm like, there you go. So like you need to strike a balance. That's my opinion. It's like, sure, if you've got the complete niche device, which is the Sony, I even forgot what it's called, the one that's made to hook up with a camera, but if you're doing something that you want to appeal to the masses, you need to strike a balance, right? Have the Pro mode. That's brilliant. I love the Pro mode and it's so good, but also have the features that we're used to seeing on all of the smartphones, right? Because there's software, you don't need any extra hardware. You've got the ISP that you can work with. Why not have a night mode? Why not have a good portrait mode, as well as all of these things? If they don't do that, unfortunately, I do see them kind of going the same track as LG.
I actually think Sony isn't going nowhere. I actually think so here's something that kind of spurned for me from yesterday that I saw with Sony that I think is going to happen with them. Now, granted, Sony is very traditionally stubborn. They are very stubborn. They have enough market cap to keep themselves in there, and the reason why they are okay is because they're making niche phones also to a certain degree. They're not doing too much. Not like LG, where LG was really out there with everything. So for them, it's smaller drops. But I think this is where Sony might go. And this is not because of mobile phones, but because of Microsoft, because of gaming. And I think Sony will release their own gaming phone that really ties in the PlayStation, ties in the audio, ties in all those things, but still is a really, like, it basically is an Xperia phone with gaming features that links to your PlayStation. That I think is the stuff that they will bring them out of that rut. Because Microsoft is literally, giving them a run for their money with Game Pass. So they need something else that will bring them out. I think that's the thing with Sony. But I think the company that would probably go away, I think it might be Huawei if they don't make changes by the end of this year. I think Huawei might actually be the company because they have to prove to us that Harmony OS is something that can work, at least just in China. Forget the US. I'm saying it has to work in China, or else it's it's
I
a
mean,
bust.
Huawei phones are still doing really well in China. Like they're actually doing
Yeah, but
better.
they're now number two. Oppo just passed them. That's why I'm saying that's where it becomes tricky. Is that their lifeblood is slowly going. And when they go
I
to
mean,
Harmony, how many
yeah.
people will switch over? That's the part.
Okay,
That's
let's see.
concerning.
I mean, I think they'll still carry on being strong in China, but if something doesn't happen with this Google Play situation, in the next within the next year, then
Yeah, I'll give them to the
because
end of the year. Yeah.
then that's going to be problematic everywhere else. But I still do think that they've got a lot of potential in China, and Huawei still make very promising devices, but Oppo have been very aggressive as well. Like they're coming up with some seriously impressive stuff, and a lot of it as well at every price point. So it's just like you want anything, like for whatever price range, you're gonna find a good Oppo phone for that price.
Yeah, I mean, the smartphone market is now broken down to one U.S. company. Oh, sorry, one and a half at Motorola. Motorola is actually big in South America, which is very surprising. That's their market, which is why the head of Motorola is from Brazil. Just It's just a little funny fact there. But Motorola and Apple, and then you have one Korean company now, and then the rest are from China. That's it.
Let's see.
That
It's
is
gonna be
your
interesting.
smartphone breakdown.
It's I mean, it's a very competitive space, so we'll see. Now, on the topic of smartphones as well, we're likely to see some new changes now on the new Pixel. So we've talked about potentially what we're going to be seeing on the newer Pixels, in particular the Pixel 5a. Is that what it was going to be? But which is supposed to be coming soon, but recently we have seen that Pixel 6 will be powered with the Google-made GS101 Whitechapel chip. Now, this is an exclusive article on 9 to 5 Google, and 9 to 5 Google can report today that Google's upcoming phones this fall, including the presumed Pixel 6, will be among the first devices to run on the GS101, right? First rumored in early 2020, Whitechapel is an effort on Google's part to create their own systems on a SoC, system on chip, to be used in Pixel phones and Chromebooks alike, similar in how Apple uses their own chips in the iPhone and Mac. Google was said to be co-developing Whitechapel with Samsung, whose Exynos chips rival Snapdragon processors in the Android space. Okay, so Google. I mean, the interesting part I find there that they're going to be having these, custom chips also for Chromebooks as well as the Pixel devices.
Yeah. So this is interesting because somebody asked me this question on Twitter when this news broke, and I said, "Yeah, it's cool. My own problem is, will Google use the chipset in all their devices, not just with Chromecast, Google speakers." And this is going to affect another chip news we have, because if Google uses across the board, then it makes sense for them to do this. Because kind of remember how Renee always talks about, making smartphones is a very expensive business. You lose money because of building your own SoC. Apple can do that because they spread it around. Same thing with Samsung, and everybody just buys chips from Qualcomm. For mobile phones mostly. So that's the thing here. But this also ties back into a news story that broke, which became factual, broke about 2 years ago, that Samsung was working with AMD to include AMD graphics processing into their Exynos chipset. Rumor is that chip is coming out towards the end of this year, which is supposed to really change things for Exynos in terms of just graphical performance. So that becomes the thing where it makes sense to me that Google is using Samsung. It allows them to customize it more with a company that remember, Samsung doesn't sell a lot of Exynos chips outside itself. So they can work with Samsung much easier as opposed to working with Qualcomm, where Qualcomm has so many clients and you're going, look, you take it or you leave it kind of thing. So I think it makes sense. I think Google is showing us that they're going for less power, more photography. It's going to be more the simple phone that works well and does all the things you need, but the photography performance really hits the nail on the head because they can really focus on that, as opposed to using a standard Qualcomm chipset, which is made for everybody, multi-use.
So it also comes to the thing about if you're developing both hardware and software, you can utilize the hardware to its maximum with the software, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that Apple does brilliantly, because you see, we've got these new smartphones with 12, 16, 18 gigabytes of RAM. The iPhone's always not had as much. Now, granted, in certain situations, it doesn't perform as well.
I disagree with that one for a different reason, but continue.
Yeah, no, but I mean, so granted, but generally, iPhones, they've not gone super high.
Past six gigs, I think is the max.
Because they try to opt for the more optimized approach, right, where they work on both the hardware and software together. And again, when it comes to the cameras, all 12 megapixels, they've not gone crazy, 108, 50 megapixels, etc. It's all consistent, and that's one of the things. So and again, we've seen the M1 and how well Apple has done with the M1 chips and their hardware and software together. So maybe, that's what Google, we might be seeing some potential there from Google as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, do you think this is on the reverse side of this news? Because they're working with Samsung, do you think that Samsung's camera software will actually get better? Because honestly, if I'm Samsung, that's part of the deal. if I'm making chips for you.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, I don't know, I think, so we always talk about Pixel phones and how they have really excellent cameras, which they do, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, especially if you do a blind test, some people are like, oh no, especially when it comes to selfies. I love Pixel smartphones for selfies. But then if I put it next to a Samsung phone, a lot of people, blind test, will pick the Samsung phone because it doesn't look as harsh, right? It's not as, they don't want it as processed, right? So I think from what I can see, Samsung kind of has their own style that, look, fine, you tech reviewers can complain about things being a bit more saturated.
Actually, that is
but we
very
know,
true, I say, yeah.
we know what our customers want, right? And fair dues to them, because their processing, customers generally like the look of, and they're not making smartphones for us, right? However, I do have to say, I have noticed that Samsung has been taking more and more feedback on board from us tech reviewers. So, for instance, the selfie camera has improved massively. You do have the option of beautification if you want, but you get asked that right away. You can switch it off.
I do agree. I just feel that the selfie camera for me took a step back because I loved the selfie camera of the Galaxy S20 Ultra last year.
I don't know. It just worked for you. It didn't work for anybody else.
It was the black man selfie camera. I just got to tell you that.
No comment. Okay. Now, in other chip news, MediaTek. Okay. So MediaTek, generally have been known as a bit of an underdog, right? When it comes to the chip space, right? But recently, they've really been up in the game, especially in the mid-range market, right? So they're coming up with some very powerful chipsets and at very affordable prices. So here's a report on XDA. MediaTek has reportedly surpassed American mobile chip maker Qualcomm to become the #1 smartphone chipset supplier for the first time, according to the Smartphone Research and Analysis. I can't say that word. Analysis from Omdia. MediaTek emerged as the biggest smartphone chip supplier in 2020 with a market share of 27.2%, up from 10% from the year prior, snatching the top spot from Qualcomm. MediaTek shipped 351.8 million chips. This is via DigiTimes to major smartphone OEMs, registering a whopping 47.8% increase from 2019. So, MediaTek, okay? For those of you who don't know about MediaTek, because I still think there's a lot of people who don't know much about MediaTek. MediaTek, I'm pretty sure you'll have a device in your home that has a MediaTek chip inside. They power a lot of smart TVs, right? They power pretty much all Amazon Alexa speakers, right?
Yeah,
and and also more recently they've been really aggressively pushing on the smartphone market, especially that mid-range market, right? So I think we've got like devices like there was the Oppo Reno Z, Z, the 4Z. I've been talking to Americans. Sorry, I apologize to all my British followers. And then we've got, I think the Samsung A32 is coming up.
32, yes.
There's a lot of devices that MediaTek is now powering, and it's showing. So traditionally, it's been all Qualcomm. Like Qualcomm's been dominating for quite some time, and they've not really had any major competition. Maybe Exynos for a certain amount of time, but then it was just like they're superior. Now MediaTek's come in the game and is doing very, very well.
I mean, honestly, I think MediaTek is going to hold that position for 2 years running because we just mentioned Google's going away. So that's at least a sizable amount that goes off, even if it's, say, 5 million units. That will go off, from Qualcomm's books. But I think also this actually answers the question when we talked about the Poco phone, right? And the Poco F3 and the X3 is like, where's this 870 chipset coming from? The 860 chipset coming from? This is Qualcomm's answer to this scenario because they are fighting a battle where there are certain things that Qualcomm does well and there are certain things that MediaTek does well. And Qualcomm is known as always being the higher end of the two in terms of processors. So it's interesting to see this happen because I do like it. Look, if you look at both companies where MediaTek is number one but seen as the underdog and Qualcomm's number two and seen as the big boy in the fight, it allows for great competition between both of them at the very least.
Exactly.
It's that Qualcomm now says, look, we can make lower price stuff and still really good, and MediaTek can also now attack that higher range and say, hey, look, our pricing is never too expensive. We can make maybe a high-end processor for a $500 phone that, or $600 phone that really can be competitive in the market. So to me, this is good because it allows for us to see better pricing in the future for some of this stuff.
100%. I think so. My take on it is, okay, so Qualcomm high-end chips, you've got the 888. Anything that has the 888, it's going to be a beast, right? It's going to be absolutely fast. But here's the thing. The growth in those premium tier flagships is not as much as the growth on the mid-range, right? And the lower tier budget devices, because look at where the growth is, India, Africa. Those are the sort of areas where more people are buying smartphones for the first time or actually now investing more into smartphones. Whereas when you look into areas like the US and in the UK, everybody's already got a flagship phone. Yes, you're going to get those who are going to update every year, but generally a really good flagship phone is going to last you 2, maybe even 3 years now because they have, performance has gone that much, right? So yeah. I think MediaTek has done really well in kind of looking at the budget and the mid-range and really capitalizing on that, and obviously, as you're saying, it's good because it brings competition. And you've seen Qualcomm come with the 7 series chipsets and the 6 series chipsets, which you're seeing in a lot more smartphones. Again, they come in at very competitive price points and they're very capable devices, so for consumers it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Clubhouse. So Clubhouse, we've talked about Clubhouse on the podcast before. Some of you guys may not have had a chance to try Clubhouse yet because it's still on iOS only. It's still not rolled out to Android and it's still on an invite-only basis. Clubhouse is an audio-only app. I kind of refer to it as an interactive podcast. You can just jump in, have conversations. People can listen. People can jump on stage to talk, pitch in. Twitter has pretty much ripped it off already in the form of Spaces, which is kind of doing well as well. Now, one of the conversations that has been coming up over and over again is, okay, how does Clubhouse monetize? How does Clubhouse keep creators on the platform? Influencers, celebrities, whatever you want to call them, people who will draw listeners to the app, okay? And that's been a conversation that's been going on since Clubhouse started becoming popular. Now, personally for me, and I know for you as well, kind of the hype has died for Clubhouse quite a bit. I kind of found that conversations were getting quite repetitive and I haven't been on a Clubhouse room for at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah, same here. I feel like I'm almost done with Clubhouse. Not the app or the module, just the energy there has been very one-sided and stale. But it is good to see that they are bringing in some of these options, as you mentioned, with the ability for creators to at least earn directly from people who are listening to them. Even though some
Yeah.
people have been doing this already with putting their cash app
Yeah. Cash App link. So people.
links.
So
Yeah.
generally, what we've been seeing a lot in Clubhouse is creators who do kind of go into there. They'll have a private room and then they'll have like a Cash App link or something. Or you can just decide if you want. You can just donate and things like that. And we were kind of seeing, okay, how does Clubhouse? Because this isn't going through Clubhouse, but earlier this week we've had this come up. So I'm just referencing an article from The Verge. Clubhouse's new direct payments lets you toss a coin to creators and they get 100%. Okay. Social audio app Clubhouse will let users pay other creators starting Monday. It's the first monetization tool built right into the app. Clubhouse says it won't take a cut of payments, meaning that creators get the entirety of what somebody sends them. Not everyone will be able to receive payments just yet, though. That will be rolling out in waves, starting with a small test group, right? Now, they've actually partnered with Stripe to be able to process the payments. So there'll be a processing fee, whatever it is on your card. But once you've kind of set that up, you can just tap on a creator who has this enabled, and you can just, kind of, how usually you see on websites and YouTube, it's like, hey, buy me a coffee sort of a thing, right? So it's kind of that,
Yeah.
but on Clubhouse, right? Now, what's interesting here for me is they're not taking a cut. So do you think this is to incentivize people to kind of use the app to do these payments initially, kind of get them used to it? Because, as you were saying, people are already using external links. So this is kind of like getting people into the whole payment system of Clubhouse by introducing this for free.
I mean, yeah, I think you're looking at a couple of ways. Part is it's definitely that. And also this allows creators to feel more empowered to have Clubhouse rooms as opposed to Spaces rooms. Like you're going, hey, I know if I'm going to do, like if I'm giving a teaching course and I want to set up that course, I can actually do it on Clubhouse and I can set up times. And they've got the calendar system there, so you can set up a calendar and for everybody who listens to you, it's great. The other half too is that Clubhouse needs to show that they can at least expand and also bring in those people. The third part is the fact that they went with a partner named Stripe, who is not a Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. So to me, I think, and I'm just speculating, is Clubhouse is probably getting a cut of that transaction fee from Stripe. Stripe is not as well known as the other ones. And again, this is a good push for Stripe as a company to be more publicly used. So for Clubhouse, maybe that's some revenue generation there from Stripe's, hey, look, you want to be on our service, you can, we'll charge you 1% or whatever the case may be, right? So instead of double charging, it's kind of like, hey, look, there has to be a processing fee for this stuff, and it makes sense.
I mean, potentially, but I mean, generally, like if you look at apps like Patreon and stuff like that, I'm not sure what the cut is. I've never set up a Patreon account or, anything similar like that. I don't have an OnlyFans account as yet. JK, don't worry, guys. I'm not coming on there. Times are not that hard, thankfully. But yeah, it kind of, there's usually some sort of setup. I think this is more of a getting people used to the payment system, right? Getting people in. And then when they have things like potentially VIP rooms, right? That's an idea that we've talked about before, where you've got a VIP. So if there's a stand-up comedian who's going to be doing a Clubhouse room, you have to pay to get in, right? As soon as that sort of setup is there, people already have their credit cards, debit cards registered in the app. Making payments is much easier. And they do this by this initial thing. It's like, hey, your creators are going to get 100%. Then when they start releasing these other features, more premium features, then you're already used to it, and then they start taking a cut. That's what I think is going to happen, personally.
I mean, I do agree with you, but I think also, again, if they have a company like Stripe on there, they're taking a cut from Stripe. To me, it's very simple because I don't know how many users they have now on Clubhouse, but again, I just looked at the name of the company and I went, I don't know who these guys are. They're not the top payment systems that are out there. So it's a win-win on both sides. Stripe needs some of that publicity and people signing up. And this is a nice way for Clubhouse to bring people in. And like you said, when those other levels come out, then it's like, all right, we're already here,
Okay,
What
let's
else are
see.
we
Let's
gonna
see.
do?
All right, here's a question. When are you going to be on Clubhouse next? Are you going to be on Clubhouse anytime soon?
I have hopped in from time to time and looked and have not been engaged. I think it's because Clubhouse is very scheduley. So I've done a couple of Twitter Spaces, some randomly. The beauty there is again, I think it just needs to open up to Android so there's more people that jump in, because I've been doing Twitter Space rooms on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I did one on Snyder Cut, because it's just easy for me to just go ahead and do it.
You've already got your followers there, and I think that's going to be a case for a lot of people. Twitter Spaces is going to be the default. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not writing off Clubhouse. I know I've not been on there for a little bit. A lot of the conversations that I had heard were just getting very repetitive. People just kind of talking about the same stuff over and over again. But having said that, I still think there's a place for Clubhouse. I found some kind of niche areas there which have been quite interesting. I was listening to a podcast about halal investments and cryptocurrency and the ethics behind it and things like that, which I found really interesting, because it's something that you normally wouldn't find in other places. So there are lots of these niche rooms that do pop up which are quite interesting. So I'm not uninstalling the app or anything. I just want to clarify. I do think the app's got some potential, but I'm just not as interested in it as I was.
Yeah, and just to add to that quickly, Clubhouse also is facing some really stiff competition. The CEO of Slack was on Clubhouse with the Clubhouse CEO, where he announced that they will be rolling out a Clubhouse feature on Slack, which I just find funny that everybody goes to Clubhouse to tell them we're copying you. And
Savage.
And then Discord also is rolling out a Clubhouse feature on Discord as well, which actually makes a lot of sense on Discord, because I know there are a lot of creators who actually have Discord servers for their fans. And usually with their fans, they will discuss, or if they're gaming with their fans, they only will game with 4 or 5 at a time, because it just gets chaotic. But that idea of creating a room where you can bring people up and down makes a whole different play. And I'm just looking at it from the perspective of Discord adding that, and the rumors of Microsoft buying Discord. That's just a whole nother level altogether again.
Yeah. So it's interesting because Marquez kind of mentioned, is Clubhouse a standalone app or is it a feature? And I think what we're saying and what we're seeing is that it is in fact a feature, right? It's something that you can add on to existing apps. It's not something that necessarily needs to be standalone. It's interesting. Obviously, we're going to be seeing way more clones coming up. I'm also interested how things will go once the pandemic starts easing, right? Because I think one of the big reasons for the success of Clubhouse has been because everybody's been stuck at home and not really been doing much, right? If you're out and about, you don't have time to listen to Clubhouse, right? You put on a podcast that's already pre-recorded and you can, listen to it at your own leisure. You don't have to kind of jump in and drop everything or whatever it is, or kind of like schedule the time out. You can listen to it whenever. So if I'm going out for a walk or something, I love listening to podcasts like this, which I can just plug in and I can listen to on demand, right? Whereas with Clubhouse, it has been something that has really taken off thanks to the situation that everybody's in right now. When things start easing, hopefully soon with the vaccine rollouts and things, then I think there's going to be quite a significant decline in that sort of voice-only platform.
I am 100% in agreement with you.
All right, we're going to finish off talking smartphones because there's been some very unique and interesting devices. So let's initially start off with the Mi 11 Ultra, which I have here. I mean, this camera bump is something, really. Like, I still don't know how I feel about it. I don't like it. I'll be honest with you. It's like even when I'm holding it, I can't help but kind of put my finger to it because it's so thick, but it's also so big it takes it along. However, having said that, I really do like the rear display. You can take really high quality selfies. We've got an always on display on here as well, so you can kind of see things like the time, notification. And also it's quite a heavy phone as well because of that camera module. And so, it's weighed nicely, but it's still quite big. The display's quite nice. It's, got all of the bells and whistles, 1700 nits of peak brightness, which is really good. But it is one of those all curved displays, right? So it's curved from both the left and right, but it's also curved slightly from the top and bottom. I'm kind of, I used to really like curved displays. I'm kind of going away from that. What about you, E?
I'm fine with curved displays. I've always liked curved displays. So for me, it's fine. I'm still waiting to get my unit, by the way, Xiaomi, just to let you guys know. Just
wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I do. So I wanted to ask you some questions on the device because, from what I've seen, your unboxing video, which you guys should go check out.
Thank you.
The device is one where it looks like Xiaomi is going straight up against the Galaxy S21 Ultra and saying, look, we are going to make a true Ultra. Now, I know you just said you like that rear display. Is it justified to have it there? And you've just had the device for a short period of time, but can you justify the need for that display? Because it adds to that bulk as well, right?
It does. I do think it's nice to have that, but I think the way I kind of see it, I don't know, but it was going to take up so much of the camera bump was going to take so much of the back. I think for them it was just like, if we just extend it by 1.5 centimeters, it's just going to look much more symmetrical, and it's going to cover the full section, and hey, we can have this display in there. That's what I kind of think, because if you look at just the cameras themselves, they take up a significant portion. Now, these cameras do look promising because we've got the new Samsung GN2 sensor, which is a 1/1.2 inch sensor. That is the largest on any smartphone right now. Okay,
is that bigger than the S21 Ultra sensor?
Yeah, so I mean, from what Xiaomi have said in their press release, that is the biggest sensor on a smartphone. So but then again, if you look at the Samsung 108 megapixel sensor, that was Xiaomi did the first phone. Remember before? I guess Samsung kind of hey, try it out, do the trial and error, let us know, and then we'll put it in our smartphone afterwards. That's what it kind of seems like. Much. But that's promising. We've got the ultra wide, we've got the periscope zoom. Now the periscope zoom, thanks for everybody who corrected me in the comments quite aggressively, which was that in the previous podcast we mentioned that the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra had 10 times optical zoom, right? Now I kind of misread that. It's 10 times hybrid zoom, so my bad, hands up, apologies. 5 times optical zoom. But then with the 5 times optical zoom, they've got 120 times digital zoom. So Samsung has the 10 times optical, and then you maximize that to 100 times. Fair enough, you're getting that. But then 5 times all the way to 120 times. Now I'm going to be testing this out. Obviously, it's just landed today, so I'm going to be taking it out and trying it out. But it kind of, initially I'm kind of thinking, how would that be any better than Samsung when it comes to the zoom anyway?
Yeah, because you're starting from a lower number. I mean, the optical zoom is at 5. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how, or maybe most of that digital zoom is literally just, algorithm calculations and looking at different points and just trying to fill in the gaps.
Yep. I mean, actually, it's a 48 megapixel sensor, so maybe they're actually, kind of taking advantage of the additional pixels potentially.
Kind of like the old Nokia. The one with the massive 41 megapixel sensor where everything was basically binned and then cropped in to give you a much.
So I mean, maybe something like that. I mean, that was probably the biggest camera module we had seen until the Mi 11 Ultra. But I mean, apart from that, again, it's a very promising device. It's right up there. Obviously, it's got the 888. It's got 67 watt wide charging, which comes out of the box. This is something that you don't get with the S21 Ultra. And it's also got 67 watt wireless charging, which is the fastest wireless charging on any smartphone. So they've really tried to go for some of things that you're not going to find. There's also sound by Harman Kardon, and again, Xiaomi have said that this is the loudest speakers on any smartphone as well. They do get pretty loud.
Sound by Harman Kardon. So Samsung again gave the audio to them, besides the
Well, this is
the
the thing, isn't
camera.
it? So yeah, Samsung's just like, hey, try it out, do our testing for us, and then we'll let you know. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be doing lots more tests with this. It looks like there seems to be a lot of interest. I really didn't know how much interest there would be for a the Mi 11 Ultra. But yeah, I mean, it looks very promising. I'm going to be doing lots of tests over the next week. There's lots coming up in the next week, but yeah, I'll be doing some more tests, and I'll be posting shots that I take with it on social media, on Instagram at SuperSaf, as well as on Twitter. And hopefully, if time permits, I will do the full camera comparison versus the S21 Ultra. So do stay tuned for that. Now, another device that's actually going to drop today, which is the day of the podcast, the Lenovo Legion Phone Duel 2. Now, this is a gaming beast phone. So I had the Legion Phone Duel, the initial one, but I really didn't get to spend much time with it. But I've had some time with the Legion Phone Duel 2, and I mean, this thing is it's a big phone, but it's a gaming phone, right? So it's made for gaming, and you've got an AMOLED display, which we've seen on other devices as well, 6.92 inches, 144 hertz refresh rate. But you get this, a world-leading 720 hertz touch sampling rate. Now, this thing is responsive, right?
700 and what? Excuse me?
720 hertz.
Wait.
Yeah. So the Mi 11 Ultra has 480 hertz. So they've really gone in terms of they want to give you that full touch experience. You've got octa-trigger console-like control. So you've got two on the top of the device on either side. Then you've got two back, and then you've also got some force touch in-screen buttons. And then obviously we've got all of the top-of-line specs, 8088, as expected. We've got up to 18 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage. But this is the world's first active twin turbofan cooling system. Okay, so it's actually built in. So like generally, with something like the ROG phone, you have the separate attachment. This is actually all built in, so you don't have to kind of carry something else around. It's all kind of, you do get this middle module here at the back, but it does, it's made for gaming, right? So you can go into rampage mode to go for all out in terms of sustained performance and everything. So it is right up there, but there's some things that you're not really going to get on any of the smartphones. So firstly, the dual USB Type-C ports. So we've seen dual USB Type-C ports. There's one on the side and there's one at the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is that you can actually charge using both. So the charger that comes out of the box, you can put and out of the box you also get two USB Type-C cables. So if you do put one in the bottom and one on the other side, you are getting dual turbo charging essentially. So it's got a 5,500 milliamp hour battery, okay, but it's actually split into two cells.
Yeah.
And that can give you 50% in 13 minutes, which is, I believe, the fastest.
How many minutes?
13 minutes.
Again, just one more time, please.
Yeah, 13 minutes. So what's interesting is that when you look at a 4,500 milliamp hour smartphone with a single battery with 120 watts of charging, okay, you will get to 4,500 milliamps on the Legion Phone Duel 2 faster than a 120 watt charger because it's charging both the batteries from two cables at the same time.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something that I've not seen. And also there's a pop-up camera, but it's on the side. Now I've not seen have you seen anything where the pop-up camera is on the side, not at the top?
No. I mean, I believe the phone from last year had that. I think that's a Legion thing, and
yeah, that's a Legion thing. So it's a Legion unique thing. But right here we've got a 44 megapixel live streaming camera, so it's made for live streaming. And because of the 888, you can actually do like AI background replacements and things like that. So you can have like your floating head while you're game streaming and stuff. So it's looking promising, and it's so interesting because I've never been a massive gamer on smartphones, okay, but there is a huge market out there Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Whenever I do a gaming smartphone video, there's so many people who are just like, very, very interested in seeing coverage of these devices, which I really didn't think was something that, I was kind of thinking you buy a good device, but no, people are very competitive in gaming as well nowadays.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, look at it. You look at mobile gaming, right? It's a huge chunk for Apple. It's a huge chunk on Android, just in terms of just profits. We know companies like Tencent make billions of dollars. What do you call it again? The makers of Fortnite were big for PC gamers like myself, but they make all their money off Fortnite, which is which most people play on mobile devices. So it's cool to see that devices like this are actually running out there. And I mean, I look, I was just fanning myself because I was getting hot and bothered with all those specs.
No, but I mean, like, in this space as well, things are getting very competitive. We had the ROG phone just last month with the ROG phone Ultimate. That was the first with 18 gigabytes of RAM. Now along comes the Legion phone Duel 2, also with up to 18 gigabytes of RAM. We've had the Black Shark 4 Pro, which is a bit more of a affordable option for a gaming dedicated device. And that's quite interesting as well, because you have those pop-up triggers. So rather than having capacitive buttons, these are actually physical buttons, which I think is something that's really cool because they just kind of pop out. I'm not sure if you've tried that, E.
No, not yet. Mine should be coming in sometime today. So
Okay.
I can't wait to try them out. But yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
Yeah, he will definitely have some coverage on his gaming channel or the main channel.
I think I'll throw on the main channel. I mean,
Okay.
Gaming phones, especially when they come with like some unique features, it's always nice to see if it can take things to the next level, or at least if it's got pop-up triggers. Maybe I can actually use that for Xbox Game Pass. Who knows?
Yeah, because that's something that I did find really interesting, because as good as capacitive trigger buttons are, actually having physical buttons that pop out and you can actually feel, I think that really makes a difference. And I love seeing all of the different ideas that they're coming out with, all of these different manufacturers. Again, competition is great, so we like seeing more in the way of gaming as well. And that's all we have time for, guys. We will be having a surprise guest next week, if everything works out.
Ooh.
So we're just prepping for that. We'll see how busy things get, because the next few days, man, please don't give me any more contracts, man. It's like we just had to go through an 18-pager today, dude. That was just like, it's like, please kill me now, shoot me.
Oh, but yeah, I was gonna say, people should stay tuned to at least your channels in general. It's some cool auto stuff coming up as well.
Oh yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We do have
Yeah.
some. Yeah. You said auto, and I was about to say auto as well, but my British people are gonna dislike, unsubscribe, unfollow, auto. Okay. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the episode of the podcast. Again, you can follow us on the usual channels on social as well as on YouTube. Thanks for listening. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks.
And Thunder E from Border Work.
And we'll see you next time.